Alright, what's good YouTube, it's Jay here. We are back from the Call of Duty League Major 1 over at Boston, over at the MGM Music Hall. A lot of interesting things have kind of gone down over the last 12-ish hours since I landed, Call of Duty has officially addressed matchmaking, skill-based matchmaking, and everything related to those very annoying and tiresome subjects. I'm gonna say my piece now. I didn't like SBMM in the recent CODs only because I like variety in my lobbies. I don't want to play sweats, but I also don't want to play absolute shitters. It'd just be nice to have some variety. But with that out of the way, let's take a look at their blog, see what they addressed. I've heard it's basically just confirmed everything we already know. One, I'm happy to be back. It's nice to be back and be able to record some Call of Duty content. I'm going to be doing a lot of things with this channel moving forward that I will address in a future video, but we'll talk about that later. So this whole blog is basically what confirms everything we already kind of knew about matchmaking. Let's just kind of talk through it really quick. With the launch of Modern Warfare 3 Season 1 late last year, we committed to a conversation with our community about matchmaking. Today's intel is intended to kick off that dialogue and is a new beginning for what we hope will be an ongoing conversation about matchmaking, sharing our process, and learning things with you to answer questions and concerns we've seen within the community. So basically, they're probably only going to tell us what we already know and want to hear, just to keep everybody quiet and stop complaining about it, which is totally fair. This blog focuses on how matchmaking works across multiplayer only. We'll continue the conversation about matchmaking in other modes such as Warzone and rank play at a later date. For players that have heard the term but aren't familiar with what we're referring to, matchmaking is a multi-factor process to place players on teams. If you don't know what matchmaking is, I don't know how the hell you're playing a multiplayer video game. The single biggest priority with respect to matchmaking, multiplayer matchmaking, is delivering a fun experience for our players. While we have had many good years of testing and learning as a part of our matchmaking process, we are continuously working to deliver the best experiences possible. We're going to continue to test blah blah blah. We often see the community refer to our matchmaking as skill-based matchmaking. Call of Duty does consider skill, or more specifically player performance, as a component, as do most in the industry, but skill is not the dominant variable. We consider and prioritize several factors to create lobbies. I'm interested to see how they're going to go about this. So connection, time to match, skill, performance, platform, voice chat, input device, recent maps and modes, and playlist diversity. This kind of breaks it down. Connection, as the community will attest, ping is king. Connection is the most critical and heavily weighted factor. Time to match, this is the second most critical to the matchmaking process. We all want to spend time playing the game rather than waiting for matches to start. The following factors are also critical. Playlist diversity, the number of playlists available for players to choose from, which makes sense. If you have certain playlists selected, you more than likely will be matched with a very specific audience. If you play a lot of hardpoint in this game, especially in pubs, you'll notice that the hardpoint playlists are pretty sweaty. Everybody tryhards in hardpoint. You try hard in hardpoint. Recent maps and modes, considering maps you have recently played on, as well as your mode preferences, editable and quick play settings. Skill and performance is used to give our players a global community with a wide skill range, the opportunity to have an impact in every match. Input, controller, mouse, device, PC console, voice chat enabled or disabled. All right, so you have to work through all of these factors. I don't really think we need to go over measuring connections. We don't really care about that too much. Time to match make. This is the more important one that you probably really want to hear about. So, while skill is one of several factors in Call of Duty multiplayer matchmaking, we know the community wants more information on how it fits in the process. And they know this because this is the thickest part of the game, or of this blog. Skill is determined based on a player's overall performance, kills, deaths, wins, losses, and more, including mode selection and recent matches as an overall metric. This is a fluid measurement that consistently updating and reacting to your gameplay. Skill is not the only factor in our matchmaking players against appropriate enemies, but we also when finding teammates. I don't like that last part only because I've had so many games where the people I play against are just the most cracked. All 6 of them. We use player performance to ensure that the disparity, or did I skip over something? Call of Duty has historically considered player performance among other factors as part of our matchmaking process. Our work in this area dates back to as early as COD 4. Skills implemented across the video game industry, yada yada yada. We use player performance to ensure that the disparity between the most skilled player in the lobby and the least skilled player in the lobby isn't so vast that players feel their match is a waste of time, which is totally fair. Our data on player outcomes clearly indicates the inclusion of skill in Call of Duty's multiplayer matchmaking process, as it currently stands, increases the variety of outcomes experienced by players of all skill levels. In other words, all players, regardless of skill level, are more likely to experience wins and losses more proportionately. Sure, our data shows that when lower skill players are consistently on the losing end, they are likely to quit matches in progress or stop playing altogether, which makes sense. They're a business and they want people to keep playing their game. A smaller pool, this has an effect on the player pool. A smaller player pool means wait times for matches increase and connections may not be as strong as they should be, I guess. This can compound over time to create a spiral effect. I still don't think they're addressing the part that everybody's kind of mutually agreed on. Nobody's really trying to stop bots. Nobody's trying to just crush bots. Some people are, and those are the people that people like me also hate. I'm not trying to just play against bronze level players all day, every day. I just want variety, like good variety. You know, some games are really good, some games are kind of mid, some games are kind of meh. It's not like that right now. If you do good at one game, your next like 6 to 7 games are just insane, and that's just the part I don't like about it. They put you in a lobby where you're guaranteed to basically do good, and then they put you against an entire stack of people that are just out of your league and just annihilating you. Eventually, when only high skill players remain because lower skill players have quit out of frustration, the result is an ecosystem that is worse for overall for everyone. But it's still like that though. Like the lower skill players have not quit the game. You only will ever run into high skill players if you have high SBMM for like 90% of the time. Game data indicates that having some limitations on the disparity of skill across players in a match makes for healthier ecosystems. We also understand that many high skill players want more variety out of experience, but often feel like they only get the sweatiest of lobbies. We've heard this feedback clearly and will continue to test and actively explore ways to mitigate this concern. I mean, okay, I retract my statement from earlier. They did acknowledge that, which is good. But I mean, what else? Moving forward, okay. In addition to today's blog, our technology team is developing a ping and matchmaking white paper for those inclined to get into the more granular information about Call of Duty matchmaking. So that's going to be for people like JGod or some of the other creators that like to really break down that kind of stuff. And then here's some community questions. Does Call of Duty consider player engagement time played as a factor in matchmaking? We do not consider how often or how much you play when determining matchmaking. Okay. Does Call of Duty matchmaking processes impact any in-game elements such as hit registration, player visibility, aim assist damage, etc.? No, our matchmaking process does not impact gameplay elements. I think what often happens with this, which a lot of people don't take into consideration, is that if you're a higher skill player, you're often getting put into those higher skill lobbies, which probably restricts your connection a lot more, thus resulting in some serious inconsistencies with a lot of your, higher tier games. So, inconsistencies with player connection is often going to result in inconsistencies with hit detection, people teleporting, aim assist is probably going to feel extremely off, damage is going to be weird because bullets aren't registering and so forth. The spending money on Call of Duty content such as bundles, battle pass, or black sale, aka engagement based matchmaking, as we've been hearing for the last couple of years now, does this affect how players are matched, or how does it change how they're matched? Money does not in any way, shape, or form factor into matchmaking. Okay. It's kind of good to think about that because the majority of the games I do play in, I do see more default skins than I do like custom skins and stuff. So I don't know. At this point, I'm probably just gonna play the game and just vibe out, whatever. Does Call of Duty use bots in matchmaking? Call of Duty multiplayer does not use bots as a part of the general matchmaking. If this changes in the future, we will inform the community. Do not add this because nobody wants to play against literal bots. Not real players is worse, in my opinion, than playing just the shittiest players. There's no fulfillment. You partners and content creators get special consideration in general matchmaking. This is the whitelist discussion that I hate seeing sometimes. I mean, there are a reason there's like a top 1% of people that do play games, do play Call of Duty competitively, Warzone, multiplayer, you name it. Now, there are people that do reverse boost. I will not deny that there is a handful of people that do reverse boost. But when you're part of that 1% that plays day in, day out, 24/7, I mean, at some point you're gonna get good at the game, right? And probably smoke like 95% of the people you're gonna come across. It's just common sense. No, we do not change matchmaking processes based on who owns the account. In specific cases such as for events like Call of Duty Next, you may be required to customize how lobbies are formed. However, these events usually take place in private matches and do not impact general matchmaking. Okay. Have you ever considered an opt-in, opt-out system for the matchmaking algorithm? Our data suggests that splitting the player base with an opt-in, opt-out matchmaking system will have negative consequences on the overall player pool. That means potentially longer wait times. There's some type of matchmaking selected. Plus, add into that playlist, map and mode history, platform, and all those other factors, and matches with poor connections. That'll basically just break the game. Have you ever tested removing skill as a consideration for matchmaking? We've run tests over the years to determine if removing skill as a consideration for matchmaking makes sense. We'll continue to launch these tests periodically, blah, 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 blah. Players tend to quit matches or stop playing if they're getting blown out or resulting in negative overall experience for players in the lobby and the general player population, which makes sense. Yeah, that's how they're pretty much going to sum that up. Have you ever considered removing skill from matchmaking in specific general multiplayer game modes? If you considered this in the past, we'll continue to examine if this idea makes sense as part of an experimental playlist or in specific modes. We have nothing to announce. I mean, overall, a lot of what they said was what everybody's basically been saying. I don't know, it's not new information, basically. They want to keep players playing the game, so they have these systems in place. There's a bunch of different factors that kind of play into it. I do think that connection is definitely the strongest of those other factors outside of skill-based matchmaking. So I don't know, man. Like, it's not going anywhere at this point. Do I think they need to tone it down a little bit? Yes, it's a little strong. Are they going to absolutely eliminate it? No, they need to just absolutely eliminate it. Well, we already know they're not going to, but they could tone it down just a tiny bit. Really, is it fun? You know, coming back from a vacation like I just did, having that first game just be absolutely godlike, amazing, apparently cracked out. I'm just the best player in the lobby, I guess. And then the next like 3 to 4 games are just like, wow, I'm just getting blown out. You know, it doesn't feel good in that respect of it either. Like I said, I like lobbies with variety. I'm not looking to stomp bots. I just want some variety in my lobbies. That's it. That's all I want. Because it gets to a point where the formula feels consistent and forced like 99% of the time. Okay, I'm gonna get on, play 1 or 2 good games, and then the next 8 to 10 games are just absolute blowouts. I'm getting teamed up with the worst people in the world, playing against the best people in the world. It gets so consistent and frustrating and exhausting, it just gets boring after a while. So basically, we learned nothing new today, everybody. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel. This will basically be my main channel moving forward. So a lot of my content, vlogs, everything will be going here. And as always, this has been Jay the Gamer. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.